Welcome to the Smart Publishing Impact Series. I'm Renée Loudermilk, Chief Editor at Smart Publishing, and this is the podcast where we explore all things writing, publishing, and the impact of storytelling. In each episode, I'll share insights and strategies to help you navigate the book journey, whether you're writing, publishing, or already an author. Plus, you'll hear from inspiring authors who are using their book to change lives. And if you're passionate about storytelling and ready to make an impact, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. Now let's get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Smart Publishing Impact Series. I'm Renée Loudermilk, Chief Editor for Smart Publishing, and your host for this podcast. We are in episode 31, and this is going to be a pretty brief episode. This is just an updates episode. So if you have previously listened to my episode about like the total game, the total playbook on hitting Amazon bestseller, this is kind of sort of an update to that. There's not much from that has really changed. In fact, nothing from that one has really changed. But since June, there's been some really weird stuff going on with Amazon that we've been trying to figure out. And, Amazon is very quiet about its algorithms and all of its things. And so there's no way to completely and definitely know what's going on. I even reached out to an industry colleague who, if anybody's going to know, this guy would know. And he just basically confirmed like, we're seeing the same things that you're seeing, but I can't confirm exactly what's going on here. So basically, up until around June of this year, 2025, Amazon's bestseller rankings for KDP, so for books, they appeared to refresh. I wouldn't say in real time, but they refreshed often. It was like every 1 to 2 hours. At the most, there was typically a 2-hour delay. The biggest delay was usually under your product details where your categories are listed. That was usually the last thing to update to the most accurate reflection of your current order total. That's in your KDP reports dashboard. But more recently, since June, the lag is huge. We actually had a guy who we helped hit bestseller in June, Mark Mason, and we didn't get the confirmation from like the bestseller badge being on there and then all of his categories under product listing, being listed at number 1. We didn't get that until I think it was 3 days after his launch when it finally updated. And so, we've been, like I said, trying to figure out what's going on. A launch day is so much more fun when things are being consistently updated so you can tell if the work that you're doing is paying off close to real time. That doesn't happen anymore. So I went and I searched the interwebs and I talked to people to try to figure out what's going on. Now, specifically for books and KDP, Amazon states that rankings are updated at least once per day, but changes may take up to 2 days to appear. So that's kind of more similar to what we're actually seeing as what they claim. The problem is that's not ever for years now what we used to actually see. What we actually saw was multiple updates, frequent updates throughout the day, and only as much as a 2-hour lag versus like a 2-day lag. So, what things seem slower since June? So, like, even though Amazon's documentation says, daily updates, the real world experiences are definitely varying. Now, like I said, Amazon doesn't publicly share their detailed mechanics. So the changes that we're seeing are likely internal. Maybe things like regional caching, algorithm shifts, operational scaling. Again, Amazon doesn't publicly share what's going on, so there's no actual way to know unless you're like somehow embedded in their inner technology team. There are some things that they've rolled out that could have impacted this. This is, again, just speculation. They rolled out several seller facing updates in June. So that kind of matches that same time period where we noticed that all of a sudden this was different because we had a release in May and that was not happening when we had that release in May. So new APIs, mobile app enhancements, inventory tools. So although those are not directly about ranking lag, the changes themselves may coincide with or directly influence how data is processed or propagated. So that is potentially something that's having an impact. They also made significant algorithm and user experience adjustments recently. So for example, uh, updates to things like A9, A10 search ranking, how content is indexed. Again, while not specific to sales rank, they hit at they those updates hint at sort of like a broader infrastructure shift that could impact rank fresh cadence. Um, so yeah, books continue under the at least once per day, up to 2 days lag model. That is what we are in the real world currently seeing right now. I will refresh and refresh and refresh on a launch day, and they will have one single update. And that one single update, I wish I knew when it was tied to, but I think it's a lagging update. So when you see that update, that's not necessarily an update that's like based off of your current order total. It's most likely an update that was based off of your order total from a while ago. How long ago? Maybe up to half a day or so, just based on what I've seen. Um, so yeah, it feels really really sluggish now. Even especially for books. And it we're here in August. We've done multiple releases at this point, and we have not seen um, much change. I would say it's gotten slightly better since June, when we helped with a June release for Bestseller. Like I said, it was 3 days before we saw anything. It was like super lag, and then all of a sudden on day three, it was like bam, there it is. And it hung around for a few days too, which was kind of nice. I think it hung around for the whole week. What we're seeing now is a little bit different. What we're seeing now is typically the next day after a release day, we'll see things start to gather a little bit more accurately to reflect what happened on release day, but there's still a slight lag. By the time we get to day two, um, I think the data that they're going off of is a little bit more up to date. So it almost seems like some of the data, because of these refresh lags, really doesn't even get captured at all because they're not updating frequently. And if they're not updating frequently, you're only seeing certain 24-hour snapshots at a time. And so a lot of time when you drive sales, let's just say within a 2-hour period, with the old refresh, you would see a really great boost. You could just boom, take over some categories really quickly that way. But since that's 2 hours, like that 2 hour could be completely washed over in a 24-hour update because what happened the 2 hours after that, and 2 hours after that, and 2 hours after that could be very different. And so now all of a sudden, you don't get that snapshot because they're not updating frequently enough for you to have that snapshot. And so I think the key learnings from this is that you want to try to keep your release day sales consistent. You want to keep them going throughout the day. So I don't think any longer that 2 hour, if you can get a lot of sales within a 2 hour period, I think that might be, at least for now, until we see things go back to the way they were, if they ever do, that may be a thing of the past. And so what's probably better now is consistent sales throughout the day. And what I saw with the June release is this guy had pretty good sales the next morning, the following morning. And so if you can continue to keep your sales going, you could do a next day push for people who forgot to buy it on release day, say, hey, we're going to keep it at this low barrier price just for one day in case you forgot to buy it. Here's the link. Continue to do a few more pushes through maybe a half day the next day. And that's how you can really maximize your standings and maximize the ability to have that number one slot when they do hit the refresh, so that you're not timed out from that number one slot at all. So many inner workings to this thing, and that's the thing with these platforms and these marketplaces. It's why every time Facebook does an algorithm shift, all the digital marketers go nuts, because it's like that whole reality that you had, that you were building stuff off of and working off of and optimizing things for, is now gone. And you have to relearn it and figure things out as you go. And that's what we're always doing here at Smart Publishing. We're always staying really closely tied in to the changes that are going on within the publishing world, and specifically the biggest marketplace for books. Over 60% of books sold worldwide are sold off of Amazon. It is the biggest book retailer by far in the world. So that is why we stay so closely attuned to it. And, as I learn more just through observation and our upcoming launches, or, maybe my buddy that I talked about, my industry buddy, maybe he'll know more soon. I'm going to hit him up again and just tell him a few of the updates that I'm seeing, and bounce that off of him, and just see if he has anything new on his end. I'll be back to update you guys, in the future, if there's anything important. But if you've got an upcoming release coming up, or you want to know more about Amazon Bestseller, don't hesitate to hit me up. I always encourage everybody to connect with me on Facebook. Renee Loudermilk. I'm the only one in the world, so I'm the only one that should come up, unless somebody has spoofed my profile. If that's the case, please let me know so I can report that person. And then you can always contact me at smartpublishingservices.com. We also have a Smart Publishing page on Facebook that I would love for you to follow. Tons of educational content that we release there, tons of educational content on our website as well. But yeah, I always love to hear from you guys. And if you have not already subscribed to the show, please hit the subscribe button. Tell a friend who's writing a book or thinking about writing a book about it as well. The information on this podcast could really help them get going, and help them have a successful book launch and release, and successfully use that book over time. And then please take 60 seconds to rate and review this show. It helps to get it out in front of more people who can benefit from this content. So that's it. That's all I have for you guys today. I will be back with more next week. So until then, keep writing your story, because the world needs your voice. Take care now.